the game of the round, boys. The Waratahs versus the Rebels. This is where it's at. Who is the second best Aussie team in terms of injuries? There are no new injuries to the Tars. That's not right. We've got Talani Seal getting injured, so it looks like we're probably not going to have Talani Seal playing this week. Brad Wilkin is potentially injured. We're thinking maybe an MCL from the look of the injury, Harry, for the Rebels.
Post-match, he said that he was feeling a lot better, that they had a look at it and they didn't think it was anything serious. They were just going to see how he actually pulled up. But he's obviously not a serious injury, but that doesn't mean he's going to be back in 1 week. And look, let's be honest, it's a pretty easy fix for them. As good as Wilkins been, you just push Hardwick to 7, and then you can bring Ekwasi back in at 8. So they've got good options either way. If he's not quite right, I could see them giving him the week.
Yep. In terms of the returns, hopefully we've got Ned Hannigan returning from his concussion, something that they need. Whether he feels the 6 jersey, we'll touch on that later. We've also got Matt Phillip potentially returning from his ACL rupture. He's been out for quite some time. And Josh Canham returning from his question mark injury, maybe, because he might have done it the last few weeks and hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few, all these returning players, no one is really completely locked in either way. So we're not getting a whole lot of info out of it, sadly. Everything's a bit vague. Guys, first one I'm going to talk about here is Michael Hooper. I keep reading that he's in exceptional form. That 50-22 a couple of weeks ago was exceptional vision, skill, execution. I think he's always going to be the first guy in any Wallabies team chasing a kick, making a last-ditch tackle, putting a shot on when the team needs it. But is he in exceptional form? Like, is just having a big engine enough to say you're in really good form or not?
Yeah, for once, kind of being the biggest Michael Hooper fan, and I call him the heart and soul of Australian rugby entirely. He's not in the form that we saw him play in the Wallabies jersey. Whether that means that he's gonna, when he puts the gold on, that he's gonna step up and do absolutely magical beast things, but when he's playing for the Waratahs right now, it actually hasn't been his best season so far. Yes, he's probably building into the season at the moment. He started slow, and did he play McWright last week? I don't know. Toss the ball in the air, toss a coin in the air. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see what he's like when he actually kind of puts a gold jersey in and understand what's actually happening.
I've got a couple of thoughts on it, right? I mean, defensively, his work rate is very high, making his tackles. He's still making bulk tackles. It's something like every 6 minutes he makes a tackle, 6.5 minutes he makes a tackle. Ball and hand stuff is nowhere near, we've seen him anywhere near his best. And people are saying it's because he's making more breakdown involvements. Look, he's getting less turnovers. He's doing less things that I would normally notice as disruptive in breakdowns. Yes, he's getting involved, but I don't think he's anywhere near his best. I think one thing is, as someone who's paid attention to him throughout the year, I don't think he seems like he's enjoying his rugby as much as he has previously.
I agree, Nels. I agree.
And I think maybe we've seen glimpses of him looking a little bit happy in the last week or two. But for me, it's not that the passion's not there. Something's not right exactly where he is. And yes, we're seeing him smile a little bit, seeing him a little bit more positive. So hopefully that continues and hopefully his form comes back with that enjoyment. But yeah, I don't think he's enjoying it as much.
Yeah, there's no doubt when he's in his best form, every team is better for having him. That's the honest truth. Guys, rounding out the back row for the Tars, Talani Sue is going for scans on his shoulder, so he will not play. Apparently, Ned Hannigan's still not right from his concussion as well. Obviously, Swinton's still gone. So that actually means all those guys are out. It's between Gamble and Harris at 6. My pick is that Gamble will play 6 because they're going to know that they need to counter the likes of Brad Wilcombe and Hardwick as well. Is that how you guys see it, or you reckon I'll go Harris?
I agree, mate. When DC put Gamble in, it benefited at ruck time. So actually, to counter the big pilferers that the Rebels have, I actually think it's a good idea.
Yeah, Harry, you can't see me, but I'm nodding. I know my camera's frozen. I'm definitely nodding. 100%. I think he's the man to come in. And look, he played 40 minutes last week and got 13 tackles and stole 2 turnovers. Charlie Gamble is the man. Whether he's at 7 and you needed to give Hooper rest, which isn't going to happen because they've already said they've cleared Hooper to get more time. So Charlie is the man to play 6.
Yeah, I can say that they've said that Hooper will not get a rest in the next 2 weeks, despite the fact he needs one more, but that Coleman was thinking he'll probably rest him in one of the last couple of weeks. They play the Crusaders in one of the last 2 weeks. So I think second last week, and then Moana Pacifica. So I think they'll probably look at resting him for that one where it doesn't really have a big bearing on where they finish in the finals, to be honest. Guys, Edmed's probably not back yet, still coming back from his stress fracture in his lower back. I know originally the Waratahs had him listed as like maybe as early as round 11. When we spoke to Edmed, he wasn't so positive. But if he does prove himself fit, does he just slot straight in at 10, or did Dono do enough?
Look, it's a hard one. From DC, he's a player, he's a coach that cares about players' welfare and their mental space. So whether he sits there and goes, let's bring him in off the bench and I'll give him 40 minutes just to not really throw Dono out with the bathwater, I could see that being a DC move. But in all honesty, I think if Edmed's fit, I want Edmed getting the crack and Dono can kind of work his way back into form later.
Yeah, and on the Rebels sides of things, for me, I think they're probably their big tipping point at the moment is just their reserve front row. If they can get full value of the likes of Caboose, Pone, and just they're so big, Ulysses as well. That might be a bit of a turning point. The Tars, I think, top front row at the moment is looking really, really good, whereas they probably don't have the depth at the moment. So maybe that's where there is a bit of an advantage late in the piece for the Rebels.
Look, it's a funny point because it was 2 weeks ago we were saying the Rebels don't finish games off. And then off the back of last week, all of a sudden they finish. Yes, they've always had the really strong reserves, but it's been something that I think's been an issue for them this year in how they close out games. They closed out better last week, but they didn't win when they had clear chances to win the game. So the Rebels have strike power at the end, but they can't prove they can put it together. This is a chance for them to do it. And yes, I think that's something that's going to help them having that real strike power on the bench, but it's still something they haven't proven they can do.
Yeah, tip on this one, boys. I'm going to go the Tars. The line's -7.5 to the Tars. I think it's going to be close. I don't think the Waratahs have shown they can go back-to-back with good games yet. I think the Rebels are going to struggle off the efforts that they put in last week. It's hard to keep getting up like that as well. So both teams maybe not quite at their best. Home ground advantage to the Tars. Hopefully they get 15 to 20,000 out there and they start building a bit of a crowd with this little bit of momentum. That'll get them over the line. I'm going to go 5 points.
You jerk. I was thinking 5 points, and I'm going to stick with it. 5 points because I think they're good enough to get the win. Okay, Harry, you're shaking head. Tars are going to win by 48. No, they're going to win by 6 points.
Right.
Yeah, I think the Tars should get there, backed by their best 2 supporters, Nelson and Harry Dale. Drunkest blokes at the stadium. I'll back them by 10.
Nice. Love it.